The movie opens up with a chubby little girl named Natalie watching a rom-com on TV. She appears to be enjoying the romance between the lead actors until her mother walks in. Natalie's mother mentions that she shouldn't waste her time watching romantic comedy movies because average and plus-sized females like them never have happy endings. Thanks, Mom. I'll just give up now. The movie then flashes forward 25 years into the future. Natalie is all grown up, and now she lives in a small apartment in a bad New York City neighborhood. She hates the neighborhood because there is trash littered everywhere. Natalie lives with her dog, Baxter, and loves him a lot, but unfortunately, he never listens to her. As far as the neighbors are concerned, she lives next to a weird and arrogant guy named Donnie, who is always up to some shady stuff. For a living, Natalie works as a chief architect in a medium-scale firm. However, despite her experience and position, she is kind of a pushover amongst her coworkers. Natalie's coworkers always make her do jobs that are way below her job description, like throwing their leftover food out or calling the IT guy to repair the printer. At work, Natalie's only friends are Josh and her assistant Whitney. One day, they receive a new client, a handsome billionaire named Blake, who has hired Natalie's company to design his new hotel. Natalie is set to give a presentation for the hotel's parking garage, but she is extremely self-conscious and insists on emailing the design instead. However, Josh gives her some confidence and drags her to the meeting room. She enters the room with her coffee, and Blake mistakes her for the office maid. To make matters worse, he drinks the coffee and instantly hates it, so he asks her to fetch another one. Natalie tries to correct him, but her boss makes her go grab Blake a fresh one. With no other choice, she obliges, and Josh accompanies her to the shop. Along the way, Natalie pretends to be not hurt, claiming that she wasn't expecting to be the star of the meeting anyways. She also says that plus-sized girls like herself are always invisible to handsome hunks like Blake. Being the nice guy that he is, Josh comforts her, and soon they return to their office. Later, as everyone is busy with their work, Natalie notices Josh looking towards her. At first, she becomes excited that someone has finally started to like her, but when she turns around, she learns that Josh was just staring at a large billboard of a swimsuit model outside her window.
Excuse me, Natalie, I'm just trying to fantasize about what I can't have.
Natalie then catches her assistant Whitney watching and crying over a rom-com movie at work. For the first time, Natalie chastises her and goes on a cynical 3-hour rant about why romantic comedies are bullshit. She asserts that the movies are filled with lies because no one wakes up with full hair and makeup. The movies also depict that two women at the workplace are mortal enemies, which is obviously not true. Moreover, the rom-com movies always have a cliché gay best friend whose sole purpose in the story is just to help the main actress. The endings always have a slow-motion running sequence, and the lead actors are always trying to break up a wedding or get their lover back. Whitney's like, in the time it took you to say all this crap, I could have watched 2 rom-coms. Having had enough, Josh eventually interrupts her and asks her out for a karaoke session, but Natalie brushes him off. After Josh leaves, Whitney tells Natalie that he was asking her out on a date. However, Natalie insists that Josh doesn't like her that way because he is always gawking at the half-dressed model outside her window. In reply, Whitney comments that more people would notice Natalie if she were more open. Later, while Natalie is heading home via the subway, a good-looking guy seemingly starts hitting on her. Finally taking her assistant's advice, Natalie decides to give the guy a chance and tries to flirt with him. However, the man turns out to be a thief and snatches her bag. Natalie chases him through the subway and somehow manages to knock him down, but unfortunately, as she proceeds to run away, she runs face first into a pole, knocking herself unconscious. Later, Natalie wakes up in a hospital to a good-looking doctor. Strangely, the doctor flirts with her, and it creeps Natalie out, as she is not used to being hit on by attractive men. After being discharged, she proceeds to head home, but realizes that New York City has completely changed. The streets, which were filled with garbage, have now become completely clean, and the bad smell has been replaced by a pleasant aura of lavender. All the people outside are polite, good-looking, and cheerful. Moreover, a romantic song is being played throughout the city, which doesn't seem to end. Natalie is speechless at the sudden change, and when she tries to cross the street, she is hit by a limo. It turns out to be Blake's car, and he profusely apologizes to her. This time, Blake is more charming, and he offers to drop her off at home. Along the way, he keeps talking to her in a very polite tone, and this makes Natalie assume that something is wrong. Before parting ways, Blake buys some flowers and hands them over to her, but not before writing his number on several of the petals. Natalie thinks the act is too cliché, and that it is impossible to rearrange the numbers now, but Blake asserts that when the time comes, everything is possible, even writing on flower petals. After the cringe encounter, Natalie walks into her apartment, and to her surprise, it is now much larger and nicer. She now has a walk-in closet with hundreds of beautiful designer shoes that perfectly fit her. The arrogant dog Baxter is also suddenly well-groomed and obedient. As Natalie is trying to wrap her head around everything, she is startled by her grumpy neighbor Donnie. He is now a flamboyant, stereotypical gay man who is acting more friendly than before. Surprisingly, he helps her get dressed and even gives her a lift to work. In the next scene, Natalie walks up to Whitney and proceeds to tell her everything, only to realize that she is not her assistant or friend anymore. In fact, the two are rivals and are constantly at each other's throats. Confused and scared, Natalie then talks to Josh, and fortunately, he is the only one acting normal. They go out for a walk and she explains everything to him, but as expected, Josh finds it hard to believe. However, since he's a good guy, he assures her that he believes her and he will help her in any way possible. As the two are talking, Josh suddenly notices a woman choking, so he runs to help her. The woman is none other than the gorgeous swimsuit model from the billboard. Careful with the Heimlich, Josh, you might snap her in half. Her name is Isabella, and she thanks Josh for helping her. Soon, the two get to talking, and it becomes evident that they are attracted to one another. Isabella invites Josh to a movie, and he instantly says yes, and leaves with her, leaving Natalie alone. As she walks around by herself, trying to figure out what is happening to her, she trips on something, and a handsome man comes to her rescue. He tries to compliment her, but it only freaks her out. Natalie then proceeds to curse in frustration, but every time she tries, a sound bleeps her out. It finally dawns on Natalie that she is stuck in a PG-13 romantic comedy. That doesn't make sense. PG-13 movies these days say the F word and show balls and stuff. In this world, strangers are nice to each other, and obese people like Natalie are considered equally attractive as others. After thinking for a while, Natalie finally realizes that she has landed in an alternate world after she accidentally knocked herself out. Hence, she rushes to the subway station to knock herself out again and undo everything. However, all of her attempts are futile. With no solution in sight, she decides to step in front of a train and commit the unthinkable. Fortunately, in the nick of time, a good-looking officer pulls her back. He, however, arrests her for entering the platform without a ticket. At the police station, Natalie gets to call a person, but she has no recollection of any phone numbers. Hence, with no options left, she decides to call Blake using the rose petals he gave her earlier. Natalie knows that rearranging the numbers is virtually impossible, but when she throws them on the ground, they magically align themselves. Natalie is freaking Rain Man. Soon, Blake arrives and bails her out. Natalie tries to tell him about everything, but he too doesn't believe her. Frustrated, Natalie then comes to the conclusion that since she is in a romantic comedy movie, she must get someone to fall in love with her in order to get herself out. That someone is Blake. Therefore, she decides to meet with Blake for a dinner date, and Donnie again helps her to doll up. The date goes surprisingly well, and the two have an amazing night. Like in a cliche movie, the date ends with Natalie and Blake kissing in the middle of the street under moonlight. Natalie then takes him back to her apartment, and as she proceeds to get intimate with him, the scene immediately cuts to the next morning. Natalie is puzzled that she didn't get to experience the actual coitus. She keeps trying, but every time the day just jumps to the next morning. Natalie eventually gives up, and Blake reveals that he loves her. However, this doesn't change anything for her because she is still stuck in the rom-com. Later, Natalie goes to work, and to her surprise, she learns that she has to demonstrate an important design today. Natalie is obviously unprepared because she doesn't know what the hell is going on. Fortunately, before things get out of hand for her, Josh comes to her rescue. He tells everyone that Natalie is actually saving the big reveal for later. Relieved by the narrow escape, Natalie returns home and spends all day trying to prepare her design. She is visited by Josh, who brings her Chinese food. The two laugh and joke together, and it appears as if they actually have genuine chemistry. Just then, Natalie begins to wonder if it's Josh who she is supposed to fall in love with to get out of the romantic comedy. However, before she can say anything, Blake shows up and kisses her. "Check out this alpha dog." Josh is taken by surprise when he learns that Natalie is seeing Blake, so he quietly leaves the place, heartbroken and cucked. The next day, Natalie and Blake run into Josh and his new girlfriend, Isabella, at a cafe. It turns out Blake and Isabella already know each other, and they seem to have a great rapport. After a bit of small talk, Isabella invites the couple to her house in the Hamptons for a party. At the party, Blake is occupied on his phone, so Natalie hangs out with Josh. The two get to talking, and Josh reveals that he used to think he and Natalie would end up together. Natalie is taken aback, and she asks him why he never asked her out. Josh mentions that he has asked her out many times, but always got no for a reply. This is news to Natalie, as she was under the impression that he only wanted to hang out with her as a friend and not not as a date. Shortly after, Isabella and Josh gather everyone at the party and announce that they are actually getting married the following day. This breaks Natalie's heart as she has started to fall for Josh. That night, Isabella takes everyone to a nearby bar and challenges Natalie to sing. The latter accepts the challenge and sings "I Want to Dance with Somebody." She is initially underconfident, but soon everyone joins her, turning it into a full-blown musical number. And this is the part where I turn this movie off. The following day, Natalie wakes up to hear Blake pitching her idea as his own to someone on the phone. When Natalie confronts him, he shamelessly defends himself by saying that she won't have to work after she marries him. He also mentions that he expects her to take his last name. This upsets Natalie, and she breaks up with him, as she likes being an architect. Later, she talks to Donnie about it and also tells him about her feelings for Josh. Seeing her feeling so defeated, Donnie comforts her by sharing his own personal experiences. He tells her that you can search the entire universe and never find a being more worthy of love than yourself. Natalie then comes to the conclusion that she really loves Josh and must do the rom-com cliche of stopping a wedding. And Donnie carries on being completely overlooked and undervalued. Wasting no time, she runs to the venue in slow motion and interrupts the wedding. As Natalie explains to Josh why he should be with her, she suddenly realizes that it's her who needs to fall in love with herself. And that is the lesson she was supposed to learn. After coming to this realization, Natalie leaves the wedding, steals Isabella's car, and drives off to explore the world. That's it, Natalie. Please yourself at the expense of everyone around you. However, her exploration soon comes to an end when she meets with an accident and dives headfirst into a wall. The very next second, Natalie wakes up in another hospital. Unfortunately, this time the doctor is older and normal. When she gets outside, she finds the city dirty and smelly like before, which means that she has finally returned to her normal world. Elated, Natalie heads home and becomes happy to see her small apartment and lame dog. She also meets Donnie and learns that he is gay in real life and is also a weed dealer. Next, she heads to work and reaffirms her friendship with Whitney, but also takes a stand and orders her to stop watching movies at work. Natalie then delivers a presentation to her boss and Blake for the parking garage for the hotel, wowing everyone. Afterwards, she goes over to talk to Josh about him staring at the half-naked billboard of Isabella. However, Josh demonstrates that he was always looking at Natalie through the mirror, not the billboard. Great save, Josh. This makes her emotional, and the two kiss. Josh was still totally looking at that billboard, though. Later, Whitney comments that now that Natalie has made it to her dream job and has a guy who worships her, it's almost like she's in an actual romantic comedy. However, Natalie scoffs at the observation, as there's still no musical number. Good. But, as expected, the movie ends with everyone breaking into a musical number. Damn it. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.